So, Grace, thanks for being on the Practice Magazine. Please introduce yourself to our readers.
So, my name's Grace Marshall. I am head coach and chief encourager at grace-marshall.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a productivity ninja with the team at Think Productive as well.
All right. So, you've published a book recently, a book a while ago, and now you're publishing a new book right now, right?
Yeah, that's right. So in 2012, I published a book called 21 Ways to Manage the Stuff That Sucks Up Your Time.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's hot off the press now, I've got it here actually, it's How to Be Really Productive.
All right.
And it's about achieving clarity and getting results in a world where work never ends.
Perfect. So we're just in time for that. By the way, you have a lovely name, Grace. I really like it.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So one of the things, let's start with productivity. So one of the things that you wrote a very good article in 25th Proactive magazine about work-life balance and what it means. And actually it came to me recently because I think I read another book and then somewhere else that we should treat balance not as a noun, but actually as a verb. That we should, that it's like, there's no goal to achieve balance. We should be balancing. It's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about it? What do you think?
Absolutely. So, my son, a little while ago, so I've got two kids. My son is 10 and my daughter is 6. And a little while ago, we were just parking up and my husband has a motorbike and he was just coming out on his motorbike. And my son went, "How do you stay balanced, on the bike?"
Right.
And we realised that actually it's really hard to stay balanced on a bike when it's just stationary. It's actually easier as you're moving.
Right.
And work-life balance is something that I found if you treat it like a balancing scales, like an accounting act, it's really hard because as soon as you start focusing on one side and do more here, you then have to balance the other side. So you're always constantly moving between, you're always constantly focusing on the thing that you're not supposed to be focusing on.
Right.
And so it's really distracting. So what I've found much more helpful is to talk about balance in terms of, okay, it's an adjusting thing. And so one of the terms I even use is work-life rhythm.
Right.
So rhythm
Yes.
means that, there are some things that go faster, sometimes when life goes slower, and both of those things are good. It's not about making everything equal. It's about making life meaningful and enjoying the slow times and the fast times, enjoying it when it's full on and crazy and busy, but also enjoying it when it's calm as well. So having variety and richness in life rather than having everything equal and in boxes.
Yeah, and especially we'll come back to actually it's a perfect segue to talk about guilt because this is the moment where you're like when you think I'm doing too much here, I have to do or I shouldn't be doing that because then that and then you start being guilty that you're doing something more or something less, and because you always want to be in this equilibrium, which is crazy. So how do we get rid of this sense of guilt?
So, guilt's a funny thing. I think once you notice it, you can start to go, hang on a minute, this isn't working. Because, guilt distracts you. Like you say, it distracts you from the thing you're supposed to be focused on. But guilt also holds you back as well. So if I feel guilty about not spending enough time with my kids, for example, that's gonna take up energy, but it also is going to make me hold back from maybe pushing forward in my business and my career.
Right.
Or maybe it might stop me from taking some time out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, if I take some time out for myself, that might actually give me what I need to be a better mum or to be a better wife.
Yeah.
And so, guilt has you kind of thinking that every time you move forward, you're moving backwards somewhere else.
Right.
And so I think when you're dealing with guilt, when you realize that it's not helping you, one of the first things to do is to actually take a step back and go, okay, let's start with enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because guilt always tells you that there's not enough, you're not doing enough,
Exactly.
There's not enough time, all that kind of stuff. Whereas, actually when you start from enough, you get, okay, if what I have today is I've got 1 hour, what do I want to do with that 1 hour?
Mm-hmm.
If what I have is this much, then what do I want to do with that? And it means that you can start to kind of focus on where you want to put your energy, where you want to be productive, rather than feeling like, oh, it's not enough here, it's not enough there, and I'm constantly kind of spinning around in circles.
Yeah, I think there was a very good example in your article in Worklife magazine where you said that you had to travel on a Sunday to a new workshop, to another workshop, that you have to give on Monday. And instead of feeling guilty that you won't be able to spend Sunday with your family, you just spend a very lazy morning with your family to make sure that you made up in quality of the time that you spent with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we went for pancakes. We had a pancake breakfast.
I couldn't imagine something better.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So, for example, for example, one of the ideas that I have to get rid of guilt, also in my work, because I'm a CEO of Nosby, but then I'm also the editor here, and I'm a blogger, and I do all these things, and I'm still the VP of marketing in our company, so I have to dedicate time to this. So what I do, for example, is different days I use for different purposes. So in this way, for example, when it's Tuesday and it's marketing day, I don't feel guilty about not doing anything else. I just feel, okay, now it's time to focus on marketing. This is the marketing day. Everything else must go to a different day because today is marketing. Do you do something similar, or how do you deal with your time management?
I would say I wish I was as disciplined as you.
Okay.
But what I tend to do is, rather than have a particular day for a particular thing, I tend to kind of look ahead. So I do my weekly review, I scope ahead, and I have a look and see, okay, what's the rhythm like? So if I know I've got several workshops, where am I going to put in those pockets of rest? And in fact, my husband and I, we do this thing usually on a weekly basis. Sometimes it changes, but where we kind of go, okay, when's our next date night?
Right.
Otherwise you can go months and it doesn't happen.
Yep.
And, when's our next family time and what are we going to do with that? And also for him, he's an introvert, so he needs time to himself to recharge, whereas I'm an extrovert. So I can recharge around people. So one of his questions is like, when's my next cave time?
All right.
When he can have time to himself and recharge. And it's, I think part of the equation is recognizing that those things, so recharging and spending quality time with the people that you love, those are all things that are fuel for your productivity. It's not something that takes away from your productivity. It's not something that's a luxury. It's actually what helps you to be at your best, and therefore you can give your best to whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and I really like this, especially this idea. I have to repeat this. Scheduling a date night with your spouse is sexy. I mean, just, I just want to say it right here, because people say, no, it's so unspontaneous. It's so not sexy. It is sexy, because if you don't do it, it will not happen. You will not have a date night. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And it's about protecting that time. So you can still be spontaneous. You're making sure that you're pushing everything else away and you've got that time, and nothing else is going to get in the way.
Exactly. Because then you can be spontaneous about where you go and what you do. But you have the time for that. And, especially when you have kids, getting the nanny or someone else to take care of the kids and everything, it takes planning to get it. But if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. So
exactly.
So it's really important. I got this idea of date night from Laura Stack, and then I really liked it because then I realized, when she told me that, I realized, when was my last date with my wife? And then it got me thinking. So this is really important. And when do you do your weekly review? How do you do it? Do you have any tips for doing a good weekly review?
So I tend to do mine on a Monday. Occasionally I get booked for workshops on a Monday, so then I'll move it. But what I tend to do is, after each weekly review, I'll go, okay, when's my next weekly review? So if next Monday...
Okay, so you schedule your... Okay.
Yeah, so I schedule it in advance. When I do the kind of mini review with my husband, usually we try and do it on a Saturday morning.
All right.
And we're still working on it, but we're trying to make it less like a meeting, and more something that's more like us kind of getting together. So little things like, making sure we have a cup of tea and we're kind of treating it as a conversation. But also, like, we've noticed, so when we first started doing it, I would be sat here on this side of the table, he'd be sat on the opposite side. We both have our laptops open, and it was really formal.
Yeah.
And what we found is, actually, if we just sit side by side and look at the same screen, even just that act of sitting side by side felt more like, okay, we're working on this together, rather than like negotiating with each other.
No, it looks more more humane and more like, right? Yeah, totally. I mean, when I think about it, sitting in front of with especially the laptop screen, it creates a natural barrier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember reading, I think it was Brene Brown, who said that feedback is sitting on the same side of the table, looking at the problem together, rather than kind of being opposite each other.
Great point.
Yeah.
This is good point. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, really. Just physical place makes you look. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's really good. Really good. And so so as we talked before, I noticed that you had a workshop today, and you do lots of workshops. So how do you juggle with all this? I mean, with how to deal with, because I mean it must be a bit stressful anyway to go do these workshops with different people, different groups, every time. So how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with these things?
Yeah, so I mean, I've noticed, I think one of the things is about being aware what stresses you out. So being with different people, I love. I love the kind of meeting people and doing the workshop. That's great. What takes up more energy for me is if I have to design something new. So, if it's like, oh, actually they want that workshop, but not that one, and slightly different. And so then that takes up a lot of headspace. Like, okay, I've got to figure out how to do that. But also noticing the travel as well. So when you're running workshops and you're traveling to it, you've got the workshop, but then you've got travel here, travel there. And I've noticed that my energy, I need a lot of time to recover after doing lots of travel. So, and the thing with workshop is you can't plan it all in really rigorously. It depends on when the clients want you. So, like, for example, this week, I've had a really busy week. So this week, I was kind of in one place on Monday. I was in Chester on Monday, Northampton on Tuesday, and then went down to Bracknell and stayed overnight there. So I figured out in about 60 hours, I had been in 12 different train stations.
All right.
Running 3 different workshops in 3 different places. Now, I can't do that on a regular basis. I can't do that every day.
Nobody can.
But for a short burst, I can do that as long as I make sure I've got time beforehand to recharge and time afterwards to recharge. And then, then I'm okay.
Yeah, I think people also they think that we can perform at our best all the time, and we cannot. I mean, we have, as you said. I mean, it's very good. That's why I want to repeat that we need the time to recharge, and people forget about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need time to recharge, and so I sometimes try and plan in little moments of recharging as well. So, if a workshop starts really early in the morning, for example, I'll try and get there the night before, so that I can get there, have a meal, sleep properly, and then do the workshop, because I'm I'm better when I've had some sleep. Whereas if I'm going in the morning, then I'm worrying about what if the train gets delayed and I end up having to rush, or I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and by the time we're halfway through the workshop, I'm running the risk of being too tired. But then also sometimes just having little treats as well. So for example, a little while ago, I was running a workshop as part of a team retreat for a client, and they chose a hotel that was like a spa hotel.
Nice.
Yeah. So I went the day before, and I went earlier during the day, and I spent the afternoon in the spa so that I could then be refreshed and recharged and ready to run the workshop the next day.
I mean, good call. Yeah. Perfect call. Very good. That's a good one. That's a perfect example, actually, to actually use this opportunity, because if it wasn't a spa hotel, you wouldn't you would just come later and then it would be fine. But then you notice the opportunity, which is really good. Yeah. And I think people also forget that because to be productive, we also need to treat ourselves, as you said, to have these treats, to have these moments of fun. It's not just serious business, serious productivity.
And in fact, I think sometimes fun can unleash our productivity. So like say take procrastination, for example. When we take ourselves too seriously, we're much more likely to procrastinate. Things are too serious, the stakes are too high. What if I get it wrong? All that kind of stuff. And what I call our mind monkeys, or your lizard brain, that comes into play. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I think I'm going to go check my emails instead. Yeah, exactly. And so when we make things fun, I think our productivity flows a lot easier, and suddenly we're not stopping ourselves and we're not getting in the way. It's more like, okay, let's play with this and let's play with that, and let's see if kind of getting it perfect feels too big. Let's see if I can just tweak a little bit here or try a little thing there, and that way we can kind of almost go round and divert our resistance, and it means we can actually do our best work without having to strap ourselves to the chair and flog ourselves harder and go, you have to do this.
Exactly. I still remember the presentation by Seth Godin about the lizard brain, and I just love it. It puts your mind in perspective to really how we work, and then when you think about it, we do function like that. So Grace, so your new book is coming. Can you show it again?
Yep.
There it is, How to Be Really Productive. So why should we read it?
So what I try to do with this book is, I know that there are lots of books around organization and productivity and systems, and there's some great stuff around that. But what I've realized is actually being productive is more than just being organized. First of all, you've got to be focusing your efforts on the right things. It has to be meaningful. So if you're just ticking things off a to-do list and it doesn't feel meaningful, then you're not going to feel productive. So what you're working on has to be meaningful. It has to you have purpose, and it has to be enjoyable as well. So it's about kind of defining success on your own terms. It's about some very practical things around. So one chapter is called Mind Monkey and Lizard Brain. So it's about kind of understanding how those mind monkeys work, and maybe rather than trying to wrestle with them, it's about, okay, how do I play around them, and how does my thinking affect the way that I work? So a lot of stuff around mindset. And then also there are some things that I suppose come up a lot in the workshops that I run, but people don't write about so much.
All right.
So the things like personality. So how does my personality affect my productivity?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also things like, how do I work with other people? So like real world tactics. So if I'm really organized, that's great. But what about when my boss comes in and dumps on me? So like there's a section about managing up, and I actually wrote in there something like, what if your boss is either an over-enthusiastic Tigger or a seagull manager? So a seagull manager is someone who flies in, kind of dumps on you, and then flies out. And because those are like conversations that I have with clients and with people in my workshops, going like, okay, that's great in theory, but like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with these kind of real world tactics, if you like? And then, there's a whole piece about work and life and juggling and, the whole like guilt thing. And, and I wanted to write something around that because there hasn't been that much written around that. So I wanted it to really be about kind of the title, it had to be really productive, is actually, what does it really mean? It's a broader conversation. Mm-hmm. It's about how we live, how we think, how we work with other people, as well as just how we organize our to-do lists.
Yeah, because I also realized that when we talk about productivity, people think that we want to encourage people to be like these hamsters that are just going and going. and no, it's not about that,
no,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, and in fact, it's about like stop going faster on the hamster wheel. So there's a chapter in there called Fake Work versus Real Work. Mm-hmm. And fake work is the stuff that just keeps you busy, that keeps you going on the hamster wheel. Whereas real work sometimes doesn't even look like work. Sometimes it might be stopping and taking a step back and thinking about, okay, what do I really need to focus on here? And that can be the real work. It might feel like a luxury, or might feel like I'm being lazy and I'm not working. But actually, if it helps us to focus our energies on the things that matter to us, that's what real productivity is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a perfect finish to our interview. And I'll just let everyone, go click in our Proactive magazine to get your book and read all about it, because really productivity is not just being faster hamster. It's really about finding this rhythm as we discussed and doing all these things. So thanks, Grace, and thanks for all you do, and thanks for creating this great book for us.
Thanks very much for having me.